mitzvah v'mitpachat.
Can you imagine a mitzvah so powerful it could save your life? And there are no shortage of stories chronicling its legendary power. These are a few of those stories. You're watching the Mitpachat Chronicles.
Hi everyone, Siyata Ishmael. Welcome to another episode of the Mitpachat Chronicles. And if you're new to this channel, please consider subscribing so that you can stay up to date with all the latest episodes. And if you like this episode, please join in the mitzvah and share it with someone else. And today my guest is no stranger to this channel. She has also done her own episode of the Mitpachat Chronicles, but she's here today to grill me about my journey in head coverings. So I want to welcome back Davora Lillian back to the channel. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for coming back on.
Shalom, shalom. It's my pleasure. It's interesting because when you asked me, I said, I can't do this. I can't ask you questions. You're the one that asks everybody all the questions. I just like to listen.
Some people had wanted to know like my journey, which I felt like, I think I said a lot of it. I mean, I've been so like open in a lot of things with a lot of videos. And so, but I think the head coverings one, I think people really don't know the details of that so much. So I figure who better to be along in that conversation than somebody who was really there from before head coverings and after head coverings. And very few people have seen me without that mitpachat on. So
it's interesting you say that because those were my exact thoughts. When you asked me, I thought to myself, where would I begin to ask you, what would be the beginning point? And what flashed in my brain was the moment that we met, because when I met you, my first impression before you even open your mouth is what beautiful hair this woman has.
I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I have like a great head of hair. Like it was like long.
I said, she has more hair. Her hair is thicker than mine. And she probably thinks I have beautiful hair, but I was wearing a tichel then. And I thought, and that's what like came to my mind. I mean, when I met you, I was shocked from two things, from your hair. And the second thing that surprised me is when you said to me that you were reading the books of Breslov Hasidus. And nobody in all of Connecticut is reading Breslov Hasidus. We have Lubavitchers here, but there's no Breslov. Well, so I was totally shocked.
I mean, first of all, I say this about all the sages. But what's so great about the sages is that they wrote so many wise words like centuries ago. And Breslov is more of Rebbe Nachman is more of a contemporary, but still, he had his finger on the pulse. I mean, the words of the sages, they could be hot off the presses. I mean, if you really think about Rebbe Nachman, he's talking about, I think he's in a lot of rabbis, I think more so they're starting talking about the difficulties and the hardships that a lot of people are facing. But I think that he was one of the first rabbis that at least I was introduced to, Siyata Ishmael, that was talking about things that weren't really big conversations, and in regards to trauma, depression, things that I think that a lot of people are struggling with today. And I think it was very much a taboo. I mean, even 5 years ago, it wasn't so. It's amazing. And we talk about this all the time, how every year, like things, it's a decline for sure, but things are just changing at such a rapid rate that even like 1 year ago, we couldn't imagine seeing the things that are happening today. And I shudder to think what the next year will bring. But Rebbe Nachman, like, I think Hashem brought him to me at a time where I obviously needed him. And there's this beautiful saying that says that, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I felt like that's what Rebbe Nachman at the time was for me. And he still is. And so many of the sages that Hashem has brought to me, they've come to me at a time where I needed to learn something. And I thank Hashem for allowing me to be open enough and willing enough to go there and to really dig deep inside of myself. As you know, when we met, we could never have imagined the journey that Hashem was about to put us on. So I think it was instrumental. And I think that I could not have done that journey had I not started the hard work on my own midot and my own traumas, for sure.
It's interesting that what you're saying about things changing so fast, because today something came in my mind that it occurred to me that the controversy over Tichel and Scheidel is like the COVID vaccine controversy.
And I told you, like, there was a sign on my local mikvah that says you must be fully vaccinated. And I'm not going to turn this into a political, but no. I really feel like that saddened me. It just saddened me. Like, I feel like politics do not belong with mitzvot. At least mitzvot like that, you know. It was astounding. But like I said, things are changing so rapidly.
But Hashem is stirring things up. He's making things divided. It's like the Tichel and Scheidel division and controversy. I mean, opinions, so many different opinions and choices to make, you know, to cover your hair is like the choices of getting vaccine. Not that we want to talk about that, but I wanted to ask you, what was first on my mind is really, what was the first moment that entered your mind, or what prompted you to, you know, to think or make the decision to start covering your hair?
You know, that's a very interesting question, because at the time I thought, this is what it is, right? Like, that was presented to me, that covering your hair meant covering your hair. And as you know, but as those who are watching may not know, unbeknownst to you and I, that there was something deeper going on with my family that really, today I can say it was in my blood. It literally is in my blood. But at the time I did not, you know, there was a lot of suspicion and a lot of finger pointing on my end about my family having Jewish ancestry and what their Jewish identity was. And I wasn't clear. I didn't know what the full circle was. I had been going through an Orthodox conversion, and many of the rabbis have kept telling me, you're Jewish, you need to go investigate your family. But my family is not, at least my immediate family, they were not the type of family that you can just go and say, hey, how's your childhood? How's this? How's that? Everyone was very private. And there were things that were happening. You know, when I grew up, I didn't grow up knowing a lot about my family. And it was actually, they went out of their way not to talk about them. And it wasn't until the years, as you know, that I was, after the journey of going through the conversion, only to find out what their identity was. And what I was shocked to learn was that my great grandmothers, and you've seen the pictures, they were all covering their hair, and not with a shaitel, they were covering with Mitpachat. And so it always, when I see things like that, it always reinforces what the sages have always said. First of all, in my life, there can be no doubt that there is a Hashem, and there can be no doubt that he is absolutely running the world. No doubt whatsoever. That I don't have a doubt about. It's just so amazing, because you think maybe he's forgotten about you. Maybe he's like, you know, too busy, or I'm bothering him and this is menial. And come to find out, he really is orchestrating your steps. And it's been such a hizuk, because I feel in many ways that in Hashem, even bringing these photos and their stories to me, it's almost like they are also reaching out from Shemaim as well. And it's been, personally, it has been the most life-changing thing that I think anyone, or at least that I've ever gone through. It was just so life-changing to see that everything really is meant to be, and Hashem really is in control. And I think that statement right there probably would give a lot of people hizuk, because when you're looking out, everything looks like it's upside down and topsy-turvy. It's really not. And I really want to tell you, if anyone who knows my life or my story, I'm telling you, Hashem is in control and he's literally orchestrating everything. Everything is happening for a reason. You just need to sit back and trust Hashem. And that's easier said than done for sure.
You know, it's interesting. I just heard Rabbi Shimon Kessin, who's a Kabbalist. He said that your life is not what you think it is at all. Your life is not like, let me get up today, I'm going to have coffee and a donut for breakfast. Then I'm going to go to the gym and then I'm going to work. You know, it's your life is not like that at all. Your life is moment to moment, Hashem testing you to see what you're going to do. Minute to minute, you're put in a situation. You have no control at all.
Too is that if you're paying attention to the things that keep repeating in your life, you'll find that this is the area it's like your tikkun area. And I think for a lot of people, if you find yourself still struggling and falling into the same pattern again, this may be where you have to fix. And a lot of people are always saying, you know, I'm looking for my purpose in life. I'm looking for my purpose in life. I think honestly, sometimes the purpose in life is just living, right? I think maybe that is the purpose. Because if you think about it, you go through one phase of your life and you think that, you know, there's a reason why it took us 40 years to get to the desert for a 5-year, you know, like it's been 40 years for me working on my 5-year plan. Things change, life happens and your perspective changes. And there's meaning in that. And sometimes the purpose of life is just life, right? That you're going through it, that you're doing the mitzvot. The fact that you have the ability to really alter the reality, you know, the power of the Jew is in their mouth. And sometimes, you know, people don't realize our ears are always listening to what we're saying. And when we're saying these negative things that are leading us, guess what? We're going to go in that direction. Even if it's something that we feel like, I don't want to do this, we're going to end up going that bad direction. If you say, I can do this, I can do whatever, you're going to go in that direction. And so when it came to the Mitpachat, I never had these words of, I can't do this, I can't. Those words, thank God, never entered my mouth. So my ears did not hear that. And I really think that that had a big impact on my decision to just go right in.
Right. There was nothing blocking you. But it's interesting what you said about your family not hiding, but being tight-lipped and not revealing the family history, which is exactly how I grew up in a different way. I mean, we know the Inquisition and the Holocaust have many similarities in the trauma that inflicted the people that, you know, went through it and survived or didn't survive. And I think sometimes to myself, you and I are alike in that way, where we were so traumatized that it's like when you have leukemia, God forbid, or cancer, they give you the strongest medicine, like chemo, that's almost going to kill you itself. So when we came out of it, we wanted the strongest form of Judaism. We wanted to be covered. We were freezing, like we were in Siberia, and we said, okay, now cover us. Cover our hair, cover ours.
We had to fight. I mean, we really had to fight to get where we were. And so I think when you go through that struggle, right, and you were like a New Yorker like myself, you grew up in really tough neighborhoods. You're like, when you grow up fighting for something, it means more to you when you have it. And so, I mean, really, like, it was a fight to get back with Klal Yisrael. It was a fight. And for me, when I went through all of that, I felt like I didn't have time anymore for the used car salesman.
Right.
And my mindset has always been, just tell me what the truth is. Even if you think I can't handle it, tell me the truth. Because at least if I know where the line is, maybe I can't make it. Maybe today I'm only here, but I will work to get up there. And I think that even on a deeper level, there was something happening within me that was such a spiritual thing that was deeper than what I could understand and comprehend at the time. But I just wanted to cling to Hashem with everything that I had, and I didn't want anything impeding that. And at the time, I was so naive to what the controversy was with the head coverings, because to me, it was a no-brainer, right? Like I had gone through this difficult journey to join Klal Yisrael, only to find out that my family was part of Klal Yisrael, and then only to find out that what their relationship was with the Inquisition and who many of my ancestors were. So it was like Shem and I had been through so much, right? And I felt like I can't go back, and I can't, Lord knows, like I have a lot of things to fix and a lot of things to improve. But I just felt like I had invested so much into drawing close to Hashem. I could not turn back now. It's just impossible. And I had to just really speak up for a mitzvah that, what, in my opinion, was getting thrown on the floor and being disregarded, disrespected, has v'shalom. And, and so it was shocking to see the lack of support that this mitzvah had. And the fact that there was really no one really talking about the fact that there's a lack of support, and that they were not talking about the fact that there was actually a very hostile view to this mitzvah. And that was very shocking to me, especially after given everything that not only had myself been through, but my family had been through. And my story is like equaled by, like you said, the Holocaust, how many people come out of that? Like, we've been through so much. And it was mind-boggling to me that any mitzvah, right? Like, when you fight and go through all that and you see the light at the end of the tunnel, that's like saying, like, right before I'm about to exit the tunnel, I give up, I'm done. And I feel like this mitzvah, very few people were fighting for this mitzvah anymore.
I think when I met you, I think that was one of the reasons I was helping you, because I already also had been through that feeling that we weren't getting mentored, we weren't getting supported. The Baal Teshuvah, besides the head covering mitzvah, Baal Teshuvahs themselves are kind of being left in the dust. And it was so hard to find the truth. So when I met you and I saw your struggle was harder than mine, because I knew more about my parents. I knew who they were. I could trace my lineage. I knew where we came from. So I had a stronger foundation. So then when I met you and I saw you really are out there by yourself, like jumping off a cliff, I said, I better pull her up, because I don't know what's going to happen to her.
I mean, can you imagine? It was like witness protection program. You grow up, you don't really know much except for your immediate family. There's no mention of anyone outside your grandmother. I know that she has like one brother. And every time and the thing is, like, Hashem put that feeling, he planted that seed that something's not right and said, you are different very early on. And I just could never shake it. And it always bothered me, no matter how much I tried to like push it down. It really did bother me. And to then find out that I wasn't crazy, that something really was happening. It was such a shock. It really was, because it just reinforced everything that I had been learning from the sages. And I think for myself, right, like I can only speak for myself, there's no doubt that there's Hashem. There's no doubt that all of these mitzvot that he's asking you to do, they're not for his benefit, they're for yours. And they're helping you to get through. And I got to tell you, the Mitpachat, that is like, when you're in the dark and you have a flashlight, it gives you like a little light. The Mitpachat opened up light like a floodlight. I mean, it just opened up and the ironic thing is that in uncovering my family story, it really was because of the Mitpachat. It's every single person that's in my family, they've all mentioned my head covering and how it reminded them of their grandmothers. So I think it was something, and I didn't have to say anything. That was the beautiful thing of it all.
I want to ask you, when you decided to cover your hair, did you cover it with a tichel, with a scarf, because you're Sephardic, or what was that? What was the decision between sheitel and tichel for you, for you personally? Or did you think you were going to do both, or did you?
No, and that's the ironic thing. It was almost like it never was something that was a debate for me. It never was a debate for me. I, I, for whatever reason, always knew that this was going to be the way. And I know, and it's what's ironic. I think what's been so great and ironic about Hashem putting me with so many opportunities to speak about Mitpachat and teach Adorn with Dignity is that it almost feels like Hashem, why me, right? Like I didn't have this big struggle with this mitzvah. But I think that in teaching it and all the women that have come forward and have told me their stories, it was a real eye opener. And of course, you were there that day that I had like the public flogging over teaching the book, Adorn with Dignity.
I'm glad I was there. I wouldn't believe you. I wouldn't believe it.
So devastated. But it was a real eye opening experience. And as you know, Hashem later gave me, gifts, and I went onto YouTube and Hashem started giving me a platform. And I knew that this was an issue that I wanted to talk about. And perhaps Hashem will allow me to tell these stories to bring awareness really more than anything, because I don't think that the Sheikta wearers who are saying these comments, I don't think that they're deliberately trying to hurt their sister in Klal Yisrael, Chas v'shalom. I don't think that's the case. But I think sometimes we're not aware of the impact that our statements are having. And it almost feels for a lot of women, especially younger women or who are newly converted, that it's almost like it's a nail in their heart and they're dying each time that these words are being said. And if you doubt that, you can go back to the whole series of the Mitpachat Chronicles, and there's plenty of women that come out and they've said this. And they've been very candid about their journey. And I'm really glad that those women had the courage to take Hashem's hand and say something. There's so many movements going on. This is a movement that really, I think, needs to grow legs and run.
I think it's harder also in this country. In Israel, there are many, many more women wearing Tichels. This country, not so much, but I know even my own, I was surprised when I started looking at pictures. I didn't even occur to me, but after you and I started to talk about it, I saw that even in my mother's shtetl, they were covering with a scarf, so it's more prominent than what women think, and it's interesting because when you started to cover your hair with a tichel, I was wearing a sheitel. And I'm Mrs. Hasidish woman from the shtetl. I speak Yiddish. And I thought, oh, that will never be me because she's Sephardic and I'm Mrs. Yiddish shtetl.
Those conversations.
She's Sephardic, she's Sephardic, she's from the Conversos. She's from Spain. That's what they wear. And this is what I wear. But as you and I conversed over the year, and I started doing my own research, I came to my own conclusion that, it's just, I'm not going to go into politics on the sheitels and the tichels, but I also agreed with you from my own personal experiences that it was a more tsunua effect, and also that I wanted to do the most I can to clean myself out and get the most brachas from Hashem for my children. Because as you know, what we all went through, our children are not, weren't raised in yeshivas or Beis Yaakov. So we need all the help we can get.
Sometimes I think too, the Mitpachat has been more than a mitzvah to me. In many ways, it's become my security blanket. And, there have been, as you know, very many, since I met you, there's been bouts of illness. There's been really shocking discoveries regarding my family. And there were times that I felt like, Hashem, it's too much. It's just all too much. I don't know if I can go on any further. And so I don't know how many people have experienced this. And if you have, leave a comment and let me know what you're, but there were times where I felt like I can't do this. I can't do this. And of course, I would give myself the pep talk, don't let your ears hear this, conversation, and you need to stop that, that play mode. But I felt like, there's some days when you're so devastated, like something happens in your life, you're just so devastated. It's all you can do to do even one mitzvah, to say, Baruch Atah Hashem for anything. And the Mitpachat, in many ways, it was all I can do. It literally was all I can do. There were days that I just wanted to, just lay in bed and just, crawl into oblivion. And, I'd had to get up and I'd had to go do my daily. And no matter what, my mitpachat went on. And for whatever reason, in many ways, it served as an umbilical cord back to Hashem. And, sometimes you go through traumas and it takes time. You just can't bounce back no matter how much you will yourself to want to do it. And the past year that we had prior to Rosh Hashanah was no exception. That was an incredibly tough year for myself. As you know, I've been battling the anemia since I came back from Spain. Last year was the year that I discovered that, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand were ancestors, direct ancestors of mine, great grandparents of mine, 17th great grandparents, but they were grandparents. It was a very shocking year then to, get another relapse with the anemia, to go into COVID. It was a very tough year, but my mitpachat, it was like a security. It was like a foundation. It was like, no matter how many words I had said of Torah, this was always there and it was always on. And it was something I didn't need to say. It was just something very personal between me and Hashem. And so this mitzvah really just keeps growing and evolving for me. It's weird. It's like your children. I don't know what I was doing before the mitpachat. I don't know what I was doing before. But it's something very personal to me now. And it's very much alive. That's the only thing I can describe this mitzvah. It's a very much alive mitzvah. It is one that evolves. It is one that grows. It is one that comforts. It's one that...
Don't you feel like you almost, like with the tichel covering your hair, that you have a different neshama, that you're a totally different person now?
It's funny. Like, I think I always say every year past the mikvah and every year, I think every year has its challenges. I don't know that I say that I'm a different person. I don't know why, but I feel like the mitpachat is literally, every time I touch it, it's like my connection. I feel that this is a connection to Hashem. If I'm in a situation, I cannot say anything. If I can't daven, because it just touch it, right? And it's like I'm connecting back to Hashem, and it kind of grounds me. This is what I'm saying. The mitzvah in itself, even though I did not have many of the challenges about taking it on in the beginning, I can tell you that my view of the mitzvah today, compared to what it was when I first started, it's like night and day. Because my mitpachat has been with me like through all of it. It's been the one constant along with Hashem. And ironically, this mitzvah is one that will be with me in Shemaim, because they say you can't take things with you. These things you can take with you. And it has been a tremendous joy, like I said, because I thought it was really ironic that Hashem would have me speaking about this, because I didn't have the challenge. But I think for whatever reason, I'm so grateful that he gave me each and every opportunity that I've had, whether it's through teaching it, whether it's going, and saying a live lecture about it, whether it's doing the Mitpachat Chronicles. I have been so blessed, and I cherish each and every opportunity that Hashem has given me to speak about it, to again bring those stories out, and even to share my own journey. It is a very personal mitzvah to me. Of all the mitzvot, this is a very personal mitzvah to me, and it keeps growing and evolving. And I'm excited to see what this year will bring with my mitpachat, and hopefully it'll be all good.
It's interesting that you're attached to the mitpachat, so to speak, as like a blanket. And for me, it was more like I got rid of my hair. It was like, it's like, I'm so happy not to have to deal with my hair anymore. So for me, it's like,
don't worry about puffiness. That's for sure.
I just, I like wearing it. I don't think that I'm wearing it. I feel like it's almost like a skin now, but you can change it with different colors. But I wanted to ask you, what is your what is your personal goal with this mitzvah for the women of Kol Yisrael? What would be some of the personal ideas or goals that you have that you would like to, if I could say I'm going to wave a wand and you can send them out to the women of the Jewish nation, or, you could like stand up in front of everybody. What would you say to the women, or what would you like them to feel or think about this?
So to be quite honest with you, my thought is that I almost feel like when women, and we've heard some of the stories that they're being forced into a shaitel, and again, no knock on anyone who's doing a shaitel, but I feel like the Mitpachat has somehow been stolen a right that I don't even think they know they had, and a right to open a channel of brachot into the home has been stolen from them. And so a lot of times, there's all these women's rights movements and progressive women. And I almost feel like the right to cover your hair it's a phenomenal right that is being stolen, and they don't even know that it's being stolen from them. Think about as far as a Jewish woman, for myself, there is no greater freedom for me than to have the right to wear my mitpachat, because this actually was something that was stolen from a lot of people in Russia when the Tsar came down with his decree, and for the women of Klal Yisrael who had to hide their identity. I remember when I went to Spain, and I was in Sevilla, and I literally was in a Jewish quarter, and there was a store full of scarves. And I said, I'm going to buy a scarf for all of the people, whether they were men or women, and I'm going to wear it openly because I can. And there's no greater freedom than that. If you think about it, the message today is that you have to be uncovered and exposed and this and that. And somehow, for whatever reason, many people see my mitpachat as a sign of oppression. And I got to tell you, I feel like you're the one that's being oppressed. If that's the way you're thinking about my mitpachat, then you're the one that's oppressed, right? And you've really bought in to the stereotypes and really to what the mainstream, idea of beauty is. And I think that if you're really honest with yourself, you'll be speaking a different conversation internally than you are externally. To me, there is no greater freedom than this. And I think it's very liberating for a woman to say, I'm going to stand in my truth, period, end of story. And Hashem, I know he will come in and he will bless and honor that decision. And you're going to see a lot of things change in your life as a result.
So what is can you say to women, what is the real kedusha of covering our hair? And how does it go along with other forms of tznius? Because you can't just cover your hair. Like, there are some groups of women that are not Jewish that cover their hair, but they're wearing pants, or they're not modest. But it's a whole package, right? I mean, it's not just, we're not just, even though we're focusing and talking about covering your hair, but it's also a whole kedusha of modesty.
Modesty in itself, I mean, if you really, it's funny because you talk about if you had a magic wand and you were a wizard or whatever, and Jews don't even know the power that they have. That I think is what's more mind-boggling than anything. And the way to tap that power is through the mitzvot. Now, for women, modesty is the greatest mitzvah you can do. Period. End of story. it affords so much protection. It literally, put it this way, if a rabbi has a couple in front of them and there's a lot of shalom bayit issues in the house, the first thing they do is they look at the woman. Why? If she's not modest, it's to them, the way they see it is that this house has, it's almost like a colander. You know, you put the water in and there's all these holes. And so the water, even if you put a whole pot in, it's going to eventually come out. This is the way they look at an immodest woman, that there's a leaky colander, there's a hole in the barrel of brachot. So if the man is like studying Torah, he's doing whatever, that's all shefa that's coming into this bucket. And if the woman is not modest, because she is the bucket, right? She's the receiver. And if she is not modest, it's literally like a hole. So it's like all his efforts are going down, which is why it always like perplexes me for those, especially those who are, who are in the Torah, the men who are parading, who are allowing their women to be out parading. And I don't think it's allowing either, because I think some of them, they think differently than what their husband's idea is. And there's a lot of fight in the home. But I think a lot of times they acquiesce and they say, for shalom bayit reasons, I'm not going to do this fight. But I think, I think there's a lot more women who want to take on this mitzvah and perhaps are just afraid to say something. And, it's funny, we're in a day and age of everybody saying something and everybody blowing the whistle. And I feel like, as you know, everything is a balance, right? So you see everything in all the hoshek doing it, right? So you see everything that's going on, all the whistleblowing. I feel like the same thing needs to happen now in Klal Yisrael, right? Like we need to start whistleblowing for things of Kedusha. And I think that, the time is right for it. It really is. This is a time where women, I think more than ever, should feel supported in saying, I want to do what I want to do with this mitzvah, and I want to take on this head covering, and they should be supported in doing it. And they shouldn't hear, listen, if you're not ready to do it, hazaka baruch, that's on you. But don't shame someone else because they are. And I think that's the key of what even the whole series was.
How can you, what kind of advice can you give like to younger women who are just getting married or just changing their whole Yiddishkeit to get started? Like what kind of advice can you give them to get started?
Question, because I'm Latina, right? So there's two things I have, like sazon and a frying pan. So I'm going to tell you this like minhag that we have in our family, right? So when a young girl gets married, she gets gifted a frying pan. And usually it's one that's already been used, right? And the thought behind it is that this frying pan will serve you for one or two reasons, or like wherever you are in your marriage, but it's going to serve you for one or two reasons. Either your husband will be a mensch and you'll use it to cook for him, right? Or he's going to be a rasha and you're going to use it to hit him on the head, right? So I always feel like, women, I feel that when you have the proper education in Torah, which is always an evolving thing, the more that you have the knowledge, the more you're empowered. And the more I feel that that Hashem is standing with you to speak up when the time is right. And those are the times when it's uncomfortable. It's the times you're in front of your family, in front of your employer, in front of your friends. You have to, I think there's such a crisis of identity in this day and age, right? People are so afraid to be outside the box. They're so afraid.
They're afraid of what other people are going to say.
Exactly. They're afraid of what people are going to say. They're afraid of being different. They're afraid of being singled out and isolated. And we're not just seeing this in Jewish, we're seeing it in everything. And so there's this culture and mentality being generated of fear. And it's amazing to see how far that's permeating. And I think that when you're equipped with knowledge, that changes everything. So if you don't have the knowledge, like I tell every woman, you want to start in this mitzvah, learn about it. Learn about it. Because the more that you learn about it and the more that you connect with other people who are doing it, then you will have the support to be successful in it. And Hashem really will help you.
I think I have to pack you up and take you like to Brooklyn and all over New York to speak to all these women. Because, you know, you and I are out here in Connecticut. We're probably the only two Jewish women in all of Connecticut covering our hair the way we are. And maybe it's easier for us. I don't know, because we don't have to hear. And we also don't have family members that are going to, you know, that are saying, well, we're from, we keep Shabbos, we're Orthodox, but you don't have to cover your hair. Or you could wear, you know, a sheitel so it looks like it's your own hair. So there is a lot of resentment. I mean, there's a lot of challenges for women in the frum community or frum neighborhoods, maybe more than we have.
You know, it's funny, my grandmother and her sisters, and even my aunts, when they learned that I was going to cover my hair, it almost seems like there was an immediate fear that came over them. And at the time, you know, I did not know as much about my family as I do today. And their fear, which is what I think a lot of your elders who are speaking to you, oftentimes there's this level of fear because they've gone through some kind of trauma, right? And it's a trauma that they can't often speak about. But what they used to say is, don't look too religious, right? Like, I don't care, you want to, don't look too religious. And I think for them, the Mitpachat identifies you as the Jew, right? Automatically, without saying a word, people know that you're different. Now, maybe they think you're Muslim, maybe they think you're Jewish. And I would imagine that there's Muslim women that are going through the same thing. So in this we share, the fight of modesty is one of all women. It's not just one of Klal Yisrael, it's literally of all women. And so I think that, you know, the Mitpachat automatically identifies you as being different. And we are not in a society or a day and age that really, you know, it's funny. We say we want you to be different. We say we're all inclusive, but we're really not. Right. I mean, that's the net of the situation. We're talking the talk, but we're not walking the walk. Right. And not just in Klal Yisrael, that's everywhere. So this is like, again, but these things happen because no one stands up, period. If you have a runaway train and there's nothing to stop it, there's no roadblock, it's just a runaway train. And it goes to whatever destination until it crashes and burns. So I think that in many ways that if we're not careful, this is chas v'shalom what can happen. But I have to tell you, like, just reading the history of the women throughout the Torah, I know that we're capable of turning this around. And I know that we're capable of doing what we have to do. In the zechut of the righteous women, that is when Mashiach's going to come.
You know, it makes me think of when I heard a rabbi that we know recently said that, you know, women, when they're home, they look like you always call a schlumperdink, which is Yiddish. But then they go out and they want their hair to be.
Yep, and they're all doing it. And, you know,
they want their hair to be like gorgeous and attractive, and they don't want to look like a schmanta outside.
You remember when the women used to say, remember we used to go to Rabbi Hammond's class and they used to say, oh no, I do this for me. I do all this dollying up for me.
No.
I'm curious now, during COVID, how many of them dollied themselves up when there was nowhere to go? I really want to know the answer to that. Like, I'm putting it out there. Like, did you still do it? You know, did you still dolly yourself up every single day when there was COVID and everything was closed? I mean, I think that's $1 million question right now.
It's interesting because today when I was putting on makeup, I was thinking, what a waste of time. When I go out there, my whole face is covered because I have a small face. When I wear that mask.
Yeah, then there's that, right?
So why am I even, why are people bothering with makeup? But we see this on the streets of, let's talk about, New York or Queens, where the women are very dolled up when they go out. I don't know what they're like at home, but they need, I think, what can you say to them about changing that mindset of being more, being more, you can be attractive at home. You could lay out, You can put some heavy makeup on at home. It's like Shabbat, like wear your jewelry and, be attractive for your husband.
Told me, you know what one rabbi told me, and he said like a personal thing. He said that more women like yourself need to come out. And what he was saying is that the example of stylish modesty that still fits within, very few and far between. And the mitzvah is to be modest. And you really should be dressing in a way that other women will want to emulate, not in a way that they're saying, I don't want to do that. And there are women, bless their hearts. Hashem, bless their hearts. But they're just throwing everything on. So long as it covers, they're just throwing everything on and it does not look right. And I don't know if you were there at one time, I think it was in Rabbi Hamel's class, and he was saying how there was a woman from Israel that came into the community. She was wearing like 9 pairs of socks. And he was like, what are you doing? And that's what I'm saying, that is not going to want, women are not going to want, I don't want to emulate that. Right. I don't need 9 socks, especially if you're going through like premenopause, right? You don't want that. Menopausal women don't want that. Like, who wants that? Who wants that in the summertime? 9 pairs of socks, mamash? Right. Mamash, 9 pairs of socks. So I think that women need to identify their style, right? And this would have been my advice about identifying your style even prior to me coming to Klal Yisrael. Like, I think sometimes we look in a magazine or something and these billboards and we say, oh, that looks so great, but it's not going to look great on you. Right. Right. Case in point, the older women who are still dressing like teenagers, and in their mind, they look amazing. And really you don't. Like, you really don't, and I think that women can dress for their age and still look wonderful. And being older doesn't mean that you're washed up or whatever. I've seen some of the most sophisticated looking women to me were the older ones who were covered up in a way like just so regal, and something that when you look at that person, you're like, wow. And
some women have really good taste. Women can dress very classic.
Which, listen, if you feel like you're one of those people that doesn't have it, but you see somebody who is, I'd go up to them like, listen, I love your style. Can you give me some pointers and tips and blah, blah, blah. And I mean, listen, speak up, speak up. I say all the time. And the other thing I will tell you, and people must think that I am really saying Bubba Meisters when I say this, and I've told you this, when I say it, you're going to be like, yes, I've heard this. I pray and daven to Hashem to dress me. And Hashem finds the clothes and he gives them to me at a great price. And the way he matches things, I could buy something this year and 3 years from now, find something that matches exactly. And it revives it revamps up the whole outfit again. And I can't even tell you, I think I've gotten more compliments now, especially from Goyim, about the way I dress and my appearance and how everything just pulls together nicely than I did before. When I had, I really wasn't wearing pants and I really wasn't in, short skirts, but the skirts probably did not, like they were probably at my knees. And so I never got as many compliments as I did now. So I think that, have an honest conversation with yourself about where you are and what kind of style you would like to see. And there's plenty of women who are modest and out there who are on YouTube or on iTorah, whatever it is, Torah Anytime. And they're out there and you can see, is that my style? Is that my style? So I think it's important in this area, for sure, you need a mentor in this. There's no question. If you don't feel that you have that kind of style, and sometimes, listen, I think we all think we have our style. I think we all, again, I'll go back to the older women who really, they're dressed like they're 19 and they think it's great. And for them, that's their style. You got to be realistic. And again, we've just become a society that we can't even face our own junk. We can't face it anymore and we don't want to see it,
It's funny that you said about the Goyim come up and compliment you. And I also find that is true. So I think it's the Satan, like you said, it's such a big mitzvah that the Satan doesn't let Jewish women think it's good, but the Goyim are coming up. One day, this woman looked at me, she said, "You look so elegant." I mean, I was just going to get blood work taken. And I thought, like, I wish you were Jewish. I wish you were a Jewish woman. I wish Jewish women would be proud of this.
When I was going for my infusion, I think it was like maybe like sometime in July or something. And I went into my infusion and my infusion nurse was like, "I love your outfit." Like, and listen, I'm all covered up. She's like, "I love your outfit." And it's like, she wants to know, like, where do you go? And, and I think that's a real compliment to modest women everywhere that, yes, we can do it. And I think that Hashem, I'm so grateful that he allows for Goyim to speak up and say what they think, because it does give hizuk to myself and I'm sure to many women who get these same compliments. And I don't know, I think that the world is looking for something unique and different, as much as they say that they're not, as much as they say that we want to, they are desperately seeking something that is truth. And the thing is that after all, it's like they're growing up on junk food and candy, and they have a home cooked meal. When they see the emet, it's like a home cooked meal. And after a while, you start to crave that because you miss it, and it is what your body needs, and it's what your neshama needs,
So I remember when I first started to look for Tichels, and it was very difficult to figure it out. So what can you say about like what you learned along the way to figure out, because you went through it also, how did you, I know your story about your wedding and getting the tichel to stay on your head. Where do you buy the tichel? And what kind? Is it square? Is it long? Where do I buy them?
I've experimented with everything. And what I say is that, listen, I don't know if people know like what Bass Pro Shop is. I don't know if people know what that is. It's a fishing shop.
Yeah.
Sports shop. It's a hunting shop. It's a fishing shop. And I found one of my most beloved Tichels there.
Wow.
Right? Advice is, don't, like, again, when I'm davening to Hashem, it's like Hashem opens my eyes. So everything becomes an opportunity. And what I found is that sometimes I don't know if you remember, like infinity scarves were like really big a few years ago.
Yes.
And so this store had a section of infinity scarves. And so I said, wow, I really love that pattern, but it's an infinity scarf. So I bought it, I cut it at the seam, and it became my tichel. And so, there's so many videos now of women who, and we've had two of them, great, amazing women who have, I think the selection now and the availability is so much better than it was even when I started out. But this one here, I'll tell you, I got it from Amazon. I like the t-shirts, because it's almost like all weather, Listen, I'll say it ad nauseum, you have to get a shaper. You have to get a shaper. Like it's the key to everything, I think, right? And I think that, again, this is about finding your style. But I would say when you're on the hunt for something, Hashem will bring it to you, especially if it's in this mitzvah. So again, I use the analogy of Bass Pro Shop. It's a store that I was not looking for tichels. That was not the mission of the day. And yet I found something. So opening your eyes into possibility, it really does expand. And I think in doing that, you're able to match so many more colors. And so it does become fun after a while. And it takes practice. Like everything, it takes practice.
I remember the first week or so, I was very overwhelmed. I couldn't find anything or figure it out. But now it's like kind of like a hobby. It's exciting because the tichel is infinite with colors and patterns, and you can have, and they're not expensive. They're inexpensive.
I would say that if you're going into like, let's say you're going into a Joanne Fabrics or Michaels, that they sell like the fabrics itself, cut out what the size of your tichel would be, a size that you like. Take it to a seamstress and say, hey, fix up the ends. And the sky is really the limit. The options that women have for them. But again, I think we get very comfortable in repeating patterns, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if all we see around us is this style, we keep repeating it. It's what we know,
Right.
And so I say, like, venture out of that, like open up and broaden your horizons. And literally Hashem will open up the world for you.
Yeah, I know. We have to rely on Hashem. But what about, what are your thoughts about women who will wear who say they want to wear a sheitel some of the time and a tichel some of the time? Does it depend on your community? Is there I heard recently that it's a humrah. There's humras and minchas, and that those are halacha. There's
it doesn't matter what it is. And for all those women who say, what do I say? What do I say? Sometimes you say nothing. Sometimes you are just being the example, and that's what it is. So I don't, my mom, I think I've said this to you, and I think I've said this on the show. My mom used to have this great saying: when you point your finger at someone, there's 3 more pointing back at you.
Mm-hmm.
The sages say this all the time. If something is bothering us in somebody, it's because it's something within us. So I say that sometimes you got to know when to hold them, when to fold them. There are going to be times where you are not going to have the magic saying for every single person. And sometimes in our community, I have never gone up to a woman and say, you should be wearing a mitpachat. And we have a tough community.
Right.
Right. And it's always been the example. And that's what it is. And sometimes that's what you have to do. You have to lead by example, period.
Yeah. It's interesting what you say. We're always afraid of what other people are going to say, but
say no.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Right. I don't care what anyone says. But listen, I've gone through enough times around the block with nearly going back home to Hashem. And you realize, it comes a point that you realize I don't have the energy for all this mishigas, right? I don't have the energy. So I literally don't care what you think about me, my mitpachat. I literally don't care. It's my problem. If you don't like it, then you don't wear it. But don't come to tell me anything about it, because you're not there during my good times or bad times. You don't pay my rent.
Right.
That's the way I feel like. So zip it.
I know. People are not afraid of what other people say about other things.
No, and the thing
but
is,
it's always the mitzvah that gets beat up.
The same people that are telling you shouldn't be doing this have no problem living their life the way they want to live it. And they could care less about your input. So why are we giving them that much power in ours?
I know. I know.
If you really think about it, these people, when they go out and they do things that are outright wrong, they don't care about your opinion. So I don't care about yours and mine when it comes to this mitzvah. And that's the way it is. That's the emet.
So what does Davora Esther see on the horizons of where are we heading?
On that myself, I really feel very hopeful in the coming days and weeks. I hope that this is a prosperous year. I hope that, it's a year full of refuah shlema, so that I can really get to posting and doing and doing new ideas. And I'm always so excited and so grateful to all the opportunities that Hashem gives to me in whatever it is and whatever I'm speaking about, whether it's this mitzvah, whether it's about my family. I've come to terms and come to peace with a lot of my journey. And it is an extraordinary journey. I think if it wasn't, sometimes I was there, I know it. And I think if it wasn't for all the people Hashem put in my life, like yourself, like a few other people, that have been through this journey with me, I'd be like, I can't believe that it happened, but it's happening. And I got to tell you that Hashem is great and he's wonderful. And he really is a big God. Like, I think if you allow yourself to go on the journey with him, you'd be so surprised. You'd be so surprised what Hashem has for you and what he has in store for you. And I really encourage every woman, just please don't judge Hashem by other people. Get to know him yourself. If you feel far away from Hashem, you can always reach out to him. And I know sometimes, listen, I've gone through it myself. There's been times that it seems like I'm crying out and I'm crying out, I'm crying out. Of course, I'm always reminded of Esther and Malka, who was crying out and for many years heard nothing, and yet she stood steady. And I know that in this day and age, that seems so hard to do. But I'm telling you, I wish I could, I'm telling you, Hashem, he's awesome. Like, he's really got it under control. You need only to reach out to him. The power of a Jew is in their mouth. If you're not, and I know some people say, I cry out, I cry out, I cry. Stay steady. Examine what's going on inside. Take a step back from your situation and look at it objectively. See where you can have change. And I'm telling you, there is something about self-evaluation. Get out of that mindset, these recordings. I did a video about this years ago about the recordings you say in your mind, and how we in this. And, there is something to be said about that. The water in your body has cellular memory, and it remembers not only this life, but your past life. And if you quiet yourself to listen to what's going on inside, you're going to find that Hashem is literally putting a spotlight on your journey and on the road you're supposed to go. You just need to quiet yourself, take time to heal yourself and bring Hashem into that journey. And it's going to open up a lot of doors. And I'm excited to see what Hashem's going to have this year. And I pray that all of you will come along for the ride. But as far as today, that's all we have time for. Thank you so much, Davora, for being with me.
Thank you.
Thank you. It really is so much fun. But that's it for today. And I hope we'll all be together again soon. Bezrat Hashem.
Thank you. Bye. Be well.
If you've enjoyed this video or know someone who would, please share it. Sigul mitzvot. If you'd like to be notified of upcoming episodes for the Mitpachat Chronicles, click subscribe to be notified.